Wow, guys, did you see us go up that ridge and climb the mountain, the wall of worry that is this market? I loved it. Hey, guys, it's GP and Nick and Ben. We're here. It's another week of Stocktwits Community Rip Live. Happy to be here. Grateful to see my two stars of the show here along with us today. Guys, I mean, I don't know if that was climbing a ridge or Godzilla's back or what that was, but it's got me so amped up today. I'm ready to go. I've been getting some tweets that I've been mean, that I've been in a bad mood. I'm not. I'm great, baby. I'm here. I'm so thankful to be with you guys, and the market's ripping just the way we love to see it.
Hey, I came to your defense. I told homie, you were out gardening, living your best life.
Wearing my third Tractor Supply hat of the day. So, yeah, it's the way it goes sometimes.
Yeah.
That's an insane store, by the way, Tractor Supply.
We love it. We this is not a plug for Tractor Supply, but anyway. My gardening has been off the meter, just like yesterday's aftermarket and today's open session. Let's pull up the chart here. I got the Qs already live. GP, how's this thing looking to you? Because I think maybe you're making a bottom call. I don't know. Do you think the bottom is in?
So I posted on Monday when you could feel the sentiment out of the room just go kaput, right? Like on Monday, we were down 3.5%. There was no engagement. And I posted a simple chart, which is I argue that we're in an uptrend. And I remember having this conversation back in 2022 with you, Ben, downtrends versus uptrends. Yes, we're in a longer term downtrend from like January, but that February to March, April downtrend has no longer been going down, right? So over the last 3 weeks,
12 days, 12 trading days.
Yeah, we are in an uptrend. Whether we hold or not will be key on a lot of things for sure. But from a conversation of we're still in a downtrend, no, we're not. We actually made a higher high, right? And so if that fails, if we don't make another higher high on this push here, and we can still come back down, and we had a big, 12% up day last week? Or was
we made a higher low?
We made a higher low, but we also made a higher high on the shorter time frames, if you're looking at it, right? Right, you see the multiple gap downs. That 12% day was a higher high.
Right here?
No, right. The big gap down, right?
Yeah, the big gap down right here.
And then we cleared it. So that's a higher high to me, right? That's a formidable gap down and should be resistance in downtrends, not break through and get above it. All right, those are.
We can argue about this later. Please continue with your point.
Yes. But so this is like we've talked about bottoms and trying to identify bottoms over the course of the last few years, right? So like in my opinion, there's been a lot of conversations that I've posted about that these could be potential bottoms if these things hold, right? But how do you identify that versus something else, right? Those are hopeful moments that the markets do find its balance and end up holding, but they did not. So when they do not hold and technicals start to break down and they don't listen, no supports, no resistance, no moving averages, nothing like that, then it's a fairly reliable short, right? And so when that correlation breaks, and that's what broke a couple of weeks ago, which is we've been in an unabated sell program since February 19th, right? And this seems to happen every 2 years on February 19th. It's the Wednesday before OPEX. Happened in 2022, happened in 2020, it literally just happens every 2 years. It's like clockwork. But regardless, that those are all moments where I'm like, hey, this is a potential bottom if the bulls can show up, but the bulls could not. We weren't holding any levels, but on, what was it, that Monday, April 7th, I believe is the day, we tagged a level on the markets that we last kind of topped out in 2021. So you have a 3-year confluence of support there, right? And what did the market do? The market not only tagged that level, went under, reclaimed it, and then also took out the 2 pivot lows, all in one candle, right? So it broke 408.71. I think it tagged 402 or something like that on the Qs, and then reclaimed the April pivot low from 2024 and also the DeepSeek August pivot low. So that tells you that the buyers have now shown up and back to above levels that are really, really important, right? These are pivot lows. These are established trading points where we couldn't hold any trading points until that moment, and we did. And so what do we get? As soon as we get that, we get the rumored 90-day tariff conversation, and the markets ripped 10% in 5 minutes and then gave it all back 10 minutes later, which created something what I call is volatility tops and volatility bottoms, right? So when you have these moments where you have these monster volatility candles near inflection points, it's time to start paying attention more closely because technicals are starting to work again. And when technicals start to work again, that means, to me at least, and that could be other people have different trading styles, but for me, when technicals start working again, it means the market is no longer in an unabashed sell, and people are using levels that are important to hold the market up wherever it is. And so that's what, so there's a lot of things that happen there. That volatility candle is your first clue to say, oh crap, okay, we have a moment, right? And then the second moment is, what do we do with this volatility candle? Do we flat out reject it and die? And that's it? It was a one-time moment thing? Or is there more to this? And over the last 2 weeks, we have continued to hold it, but because it was a 12% up day, that happened, it's created a monster wide range. So it feels awful. Every single day when you get these, holy crap, we're down 3%, it feels horrendous and you feel like you're wrong. But what did we do? All we did was a 61% retrace to the bang on, like almost penny. So what's that again? Technicals are showing up, right? People are fading to certain points, and then buyers are stepping in. And if you had watched the last 2 months, and I'm sure everyone has, we rejected every single one of those potential fades, right? We got to the 61% retrace, 78% retrace, and it just kept dropping and dropping and dropping. So things to notice, not saying it's foolproof, but it's stuff that to me is really important because I am a technical trader. And so when technicals hold, I don't care about the macro. I don't care about the fundamentals. I don't care about anything else. If the technicals are holding, it's time to start paying attention.
Yeah.
Ooh, my boy's on fire, Nick. How do you back that up?
You throw the fibs on from that most recent low to that. So I'm still looking at that low as our first day rally attempt. And then the follow through day is that massive candle. That's how I'm looking at it. I'd also, what I call bars like that, wide range bars, I call them igniting bars. It's igniting a move. And I've never seen a bar that massive. So like in thinking about time, I think you have to manage your expectations. To see follow through immediately from a bar that big, I don't know if your expectations are managed appropriately. And then you throw the fibs on from that recent low to that candle high. Yeah, Monday on that gap down, we tabbed the 0.618. Prior to that, we were holding the top third of that igniting bar. I'm pretty confident that O'Neill has a rule that when you see an igniting bar or a follow through day, even if it's an index, you've got to buy something. So the odds are in the favor of the bulls currently, and ultimately we'll see if we actually get follow through above. Are we looking at the Qs? Yeah, as soon as on the SPYs, what is it though? So the Qs basically like your next pivot is like that 468, 469. We start to see that get taken out, and it's like you should be probably legging into whatever positions you're currently in. We do have the declining 50-day. We do have the flatline 200-day, and we do have a massive range. But from the way that it's looking, it seems tradable to me. And I think you got to take a stab at it. You take out Monday's low, then I think we start to get concerned. I think we touched on that point actually last week. Was or that was the 510, 515.
So also, Nick, if you start to look at these things, if you start to boil them down to intraday timelines as well, look at even today's pullback. Today was the 61.8 retracement, right? Like it's all technical till it's not, right? And so technicals help you when the markets stabilize. And right now the markets are trying to stabilize and the technicals are holding. So I think if you're looking at this, you got to look on multiple time frames. And if multiple time frames, the technicals are holding up, you have more power to the upside. Sorry. I just wanted to add that point is like even the intraday time frames are holding to the technical levels.
At the open this morning, the McClellan was pushing. I'm sure Bags wants to touch on this, but the McClellan was pushing into an overbought reading, which I think should have kind of been expected considering the gap up in the aftermarket activity that we saw yesterday. Chasers aren't getting punished as of right now, something to keep in mind. On the flip side, if you're a bear or looking for a low risk entry, while I don't agree with you, here's kind of your spot. We're in an overbought reading in a intermediate downtrend. So, there's one point to
hey Nick,
taking that outside.
I'll chime in just a minute, but I think it's important. Sure. You've mentioned the McClellan a few times. Can you explain to everyone what the McClellan is and how that gauges things for you?
The McClellan, I'm a creature of habit. It's something that Zanger's got his own kind of McClellan-esque oscillator. It's a standalone oscillator. It's not tied to a specific chart, although the data that my McClellan is pulling from the NYSE. I think you could tie it to any index on T2. Was it T2000? I believe the ticker is T2106. The idea behind it is just I think it's taking advancing issues by declining issues, and the way that I use it is just if we're in a uptrend, I'm looking to add to winners in an oversold reading. I'm ignoring overbought readings in an uptrend, and then vice versa in a downtrend.
So like it's similar to like a momentum indicator that you might see from RSI, for instance, but it takes in other factors to give you overbought and oversold readings.
Yeah. Again, like uptrends, you ignore the overbought reading. I mean, as any indicator, it's generally somewhat lagging. Price and volume is, I think, what you should be paying attention to more than anything. But yeah, it's definitely it's something to kind of it's just a gauge.
Yeah, you can probably find that on TradingView or other similar indicators. It might not be the McClellan indicator, but I'm sure somebody's copied one.
My advice or unsolicited advice to listeners is consistency. It's like you're sitting at the blackjack table. If you're gonna hit a 12 on 12, you got to hit the 12 on 12 every time you're playing to reap the rewards over the long term. So it's like if you're playing or if you're using an oscillator, use it consistently. Otherwise, you're yeah, you're kind of messing with your results, I think.
That's a great analogy. Like the 12 on 12 hit, like it's a 50-50 shot. So if you're going to do it every time. If you're not going to do it, don't ever do it. So you have consistent results that you can pivot against.
So, surprise, guys. I might be less bearish bags right now. I did put some money to work on Monday, so you'll be happy to hear that. I've still got about half of what I took out of the market, so I'm still about 30-ish% cash. But I had put some more to work. But I put it to work not knowing whether we are about to break out or whether this is a bottom. I took a calculated risk to add to some more SOXL on the dip down into the 8s. So, GP, I hear you on the way you described, lower high and higher low. And you and I argued in 2002 and early 2003 for months on end, where are we in a downtrend or are we in an uptrend? I still say 12 days, 12 trading sessions is way too short of a time frame for me, right, to be able to say we're in any type of trend right now. I see, and we'll count them together, I see a higher high, a lower high, and a lower high, and I see a lower low and a higher low. That's what I see right now on this chart, and I made a little wedge there. But as we talked about last week, I'm not getting excited about anything until we can take out the high of this volatility candle right here. And we haven't today. It was a great day from that pop that we got. And this is part of, the whole market by tweet and proclamation that we talked about a couple of weeks ago. Nothing fundamentally has changed other than the president of the United States said he was not going to kick Jerome Powell out of office. He wasn't going to fire him. And then he even went further and said, I'm going to capitulate and reduce some of these Chinese tariffs. So nothing has changed fundamentally in this conversation to me. GP, you know how I'm going to tell when the bottom's in? When you finally get bearish, that's when I'm going to say the bottom's in. We've got capitulation, and GP's changed his mind. I don't know if it's the bottom or not. I hope it's the bottom. I've been telling you guys this for months that I hope I'm wrong, but I don't know. We're in a state of we don't know what's going on. Yeah, we're still working in this candle's range, and we could do that for months on end. This wedge that I drew here doesn't mean anything other than that's what we're currently seeing from the last 12 days. But a decision's going to have to be made. Anything over 467 on the Qs, I think it's fair game. Anything under 401, I think it's fair game, right? So until we break out some way, I think that we're gonna see how it works out. But I can't go out there on a limb and say we're at a bottom right now, and I can't go out there on a limb and say, oh, we're going down more because we're in this range, and we'll see how that plays out. The range basically has been set in a few days longer than whatever this pattern is. So this is 14 trading sessions as opposed to 12. So I don't know. I took a calculated risk that we're toward the bottom side of my original range that I drew here in these yellow lines. That, hey, maybe I can get some squeeze out of SOXL. But it wasn't anything that I'm firmly planted that, hey, we're going only up from here. The market's not showing us that yet, in my opinion.
But I didn't say it's I didn't say we're only up, right? I said it's a bottom. And so similar to when I called the bottom in June 2022, we came back and retested in October. So I think the retest happens here. We actually went lower in October than the retest. Doesn't mean it wasn't the bottom in June, because if you had bought, let's say, like a handful of names, we can talk about Meta, we can talk about Netflix, we can talk about quite a few names that never got back to its lows in June 2022, even when the market double bottomed in October of 2022, right?
Right.
So I think so when I talk about bottoms, I I know there's going to be another retest. The question is, will the retest be only on the index, or will it be every single stock, right? And so I don't think it's only up from here. We've talked about this a few times, which is like the 2015, 2016 cycle, where we bottom out, we try for all-time highs, get rejected, and then we come back and retest these lows again, where everyone will then call for another whatever will happen conversation, right? The possibility that exists that it's the single bottom because of the size of the move in the short time is a potential, and we don't get a double bottom test, but I'm prepared for the double bottom test, right? And so, like, I'll give you my buy, right? I bought Netflix in April and May of 2022 at anywhere between 164 and 200, right? Just one example. And when it was in October, Netflix was in 300s. You never got that opportunity again, right? So that's what I mean by double bottoms. Does that mean every stock? Like, I share a lot of charts. There's a lot of bearish charts that I share too, but that seems that no one ever pays attention to. But there's still a lot of names. Like I talked about it today. Celsius, right? Looks like a great short, even with the markets. So there's a lot of stuff, and we've talked about the lost decade for years now too, right? So that's a whole different conversation.
Well, it might. I mean, we can't assume that everyone who's watching here understands what we've talked about the lost decade.
Yeah.
I know we've mentioned it a few times, but the lost decade, in essence, is right. There can be a wide range of volatility, and I think a classic example of that was what Disney GP.
Disney, GE, Win. I can go through the list of names. Look, dude, Square, XYZ, Block, whatever the hell you want to call that, is 8+ years of sideways, but I don't even consider that one of the better names. Look at Nike, look at Starbucks, look at Target, I can go through the list, right? Like
Nike looks awful. Gosh.
Look at Target. Target doesn't look better, and I love the place.
Anyway, sorry, GP. I don't mean to jump on you as the perma bull, right? Like, I think you have been optimistic this whole time, and I'm sort of at this point, lukewarm at best of what I think is going on in the market. And you've got a great track record of being right. I just can't call it right here of what I think's happening. But I do think one name that you're very excited about, at least opposed from the chart that you shared earlier, was Tesla. And Tesla missed on top and bottom line on earnings yesterday. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. It's up what, 7% today, 8% today. Huge gap up. It's been bouncing off of this support level down here around 217, 220. And I thought the one thing I tweeted yesterday was the revenue or net income miss of minus 71%. Like, that's just bad. I know that you have a bullish thesis on Tesla, and you've been a long-term Tesla shareholder. And Nick, you like Tesla too. So I'm interested in why you guys think that even though these poor quarterly reports seem to signal something else, you guys are optimistic to stop.
Nick, you want to go first?
Yeah, sure. I'm how do I say this? I am just I think Elon is a genius, and I'm just not willing to bet against him. Like, I'm not going as far to say, if I was in fanboy category, he could do no wrong. And I'm not saying that he can do no wrong. Like, that's not what I'm saying. I just think that he's a genius, and I think he will do anything and everything he can to win. And like, I'm not gonna bet against somebody like that. Tesla looks to me like, technically, both. I could probably go through the Tesla chart over the last probably, like, got even back pre-2020, And I could argue that it's traded incredibly technically well up and down, depending on the patterns that you were kind of looking at and how you were playing it. Where it's sitting right now, you're basically back at that 200 level, 250. We're working on a weekly engulfer right now, depending on how we close on Friday. I don't like the weekly chart as much. I don't like the moving averages curling. However, we push above those and the squeeze is on. Like I don't. Yeah, I mean, it's pretty. To me, it's kind of that simple. I think. Just not a guy that I'm going to bet against.
I think technically, especially with today's move, the chart looks pretty darn good.
Yeah.
I mean, you look at the 4 hour, you look at the daily, right? The weekly is still not as good with those moving averages curling down, but all the lower time frames build up to change the larger time frames, right, GP?
Real quick, sorry, GP. On the daily, we've had 3 legs down or 3 waves down. So I would almost argue this leg from basically 350 to 200 was
1,
essentially
2, 3.
The first was that 500 down to like 420 back in, looks like December. Yeah, 1
earnings, right into earnings,
2, and then 3. So I would somewhat argue that this is the kind of that capitulatory leg. And again, like back to kind of the other that when you're talking about the Qs, like we're in a range here. So whichever direction it ultimately picks, we should see that kind of the range expansion. I'm just leaning more towards the upside.
There you go, GP. I drew it for you. Explain it.
Yeah. So before I even get into that, so I am a longtime shareholder. I am not an Elon fanboy. He's actually been miserable for
since Twitter.
Long-term price action, right? Like long-term, he's great because the vision is what he's trying to implement. But year to year, day to day, he's terrible. He's this. Like everyone's surprised by his actions. This is the same CEO in the middle of potentially going bankrupt in April of 2019, releases a April Fool's Day joke saying Tesla has gone bankrupt. This is a public CEO. Like if you're expecting something different from Elon, that's on you. And so price action has nothing to do with any of this stuff. It trades in 60 to 80% ranges all the time. You calling a 10% move to the downside is not some genius move. It's Tesla's daily ATR. Take a look at it. Sorry, there's the little mini rant. But from a technical perspective, the most followed moving average for me is the 50 and the 200-week moving average. Both are not curling down. They are curling up. They are rising. This is an opportunity that most people cannot understand because of how price action goes, but we typically get pullbacks into rising moving averages, especially when you have a golden cross on the weekly. You had a golden cross on the weekly here, and so technically it struggled at this level. We've been 7 weeks now at the 200-week moving average, which is slightly rising. It's not great, but the 50-week is still rising. So I understand that some of the short-term moving averages are curling down. This happens quite often because every single year, 2023, we had a 78% pullback. 2024, we had a 78% pullback. 2025, we've had a pullback. In every single one of those moments, we have had a 200% move following those pullbacks. So to me, you have a 78% move retracement. And honestly, I was expecting, because everyone was so in my face about how it's going to hit 170, 180, that it's going to happen because they've been right for 4 months, right? Like I was getting defeated, but ultimately it got the kitchen sink thrown out. I don't think as a shareholder, I don't think I've seen back-to-back misses like this in Tesla's earnings in a really long time, right? And for whatever reason, I don't care about the narrative. I'm just talking about it's terrible, terrible. And what are we seeing? We're seeing a stock that has not gone anywhere since March 10th.
Now, in fairness, none of us I would classify any of the three of us as, fundamental traders. That's just not who we are, right?
Yep.
But at the same time, I mean, any other company who posts those numbers wouldn't be up 7% today.
No, look at the home builder on Friday. What was it? DLR or DHL?
DL Horton?
Yeah, DL Horton. I don't know the symbol, but
is that DL8? DL.
I don't know.
DHR.
Not a name I trade.
DHR.
DHR. There you go.
So
That's Danaher.
DHR had a double miss on earnings. Double miss. Pretty freaking awful. And it was green for the day. Right? And it pushed up. So lots of things bottom when the news is at its worst. You know this, right, Ben? So
yeah, I'm not arguing. I'm not arguing.
So if you think the quarters are going to get worse with the model release refresh, then sure, short it. Happily take all the money you want from it, and I hope you win, right? But I feel like that's, yeah. Anyway, go ahead, Ben. Sorry.
No, I think technically it looks like a pretty decent setup. I just have to pay attention to those earnings reports, and when they're so negative or so overly positive, it does throw a little light bulb up in the old noggin here, right? And it's like, why is this? And you know what? I think a great place to check out what's happening on
is Nvidia. Nvidia had the most stellar ever report earnings and basically traded down.
Well, I was going to go to the good old Stocktwits earnings recap that gets generated for you. It pulls everything together there, and you can click on the old full summary and read it all. And when I read this, even after knowing what happened, there's not a whole lot of there for the bulls. And GP, you could be exactly right? This could be the market pricing forward, as it often does, meaning that the bottom is in. I'm not calling the bottom is in. I'm just theorizing that could be part of the reaction to this stock in particular.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway,
weekly, right? The weekly is in if you're talking about uptrends and downtrends, right? Tesla isn't an uptrend. It has made higher highs and higher lows since 2020. Is that accurate?
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm not arguing the fact that I don't agree with Elon, and I'm not arguing the fact that what the chart looks like. I think the chart looks pretty good here if the bottom's in.
Yep.
Right. That's all I'm saying.
So let me ask you a question.
I find it fascinating that people, generally speaking, no matter what stock you pick out there, it's going to be moving in the same direction as the indices, whether that's up or down. It's just a matter of if it's a leader or not. One's going to move. If the leader is going to lead, it's going to move faster and further than, your laggard. So to go into a corrective period and to expect a company or a stock to outperform, I don't want to say it's a fool's errand, but it's definitely not realistic.
Hey, GP, and perfect segue. If you're following along with GP's charts on Tesla and you took that trade, Tesla could potentially wind up being next year's cash tag of the year. And where's my screen share? And what's happening with the cash tag of the year? It's the good old cash tag. There it is. Cash Tag Awards. Sorry, I got lost in the sauce. It's coming up this weekend. There's still a few tickets left. Get tickets if you're in the greater New York area or just want to travel. GP's going to be there, right, GP?
I will be there. It's actually next Wednesday, not this weekend, but I'll be there in person. Happy to argue anything you want, and if you want to fade me and call me contrary. Anyway, just come introduce yourself, buy a ticket, come in. It'll be fun. It'd be awesome to meet anyone who's in the area. We'll be there rooting for anyone who's been nominated, because I think the community in general is fantastic. And would love to meet you, would love to see you get there. It'd be a really good thing.
Yeah, and our boy GP's up for a cash tag award. To me, every day is the weekend as I'm living this retired life, so apologies on not being on the weekend. It's on Wednesday. But yeah, this Tesla trade could be a good one because we know that GP loves him some Tesla, and if this is the bottom, we've talked about this relentlessly. If you're bullish Tesla, you think it's going much higher than what it currently is. So that could be part of next year's cash tag of the year. GP could be the best trader of the year, also the best community member of the year. We're just promoting GP for everything at next year's cash tags. We love it. So go to cashtag.stocktwits.com if you're interested in getting some tickets. And we got that taken care of.
Appreciate that, fellas. That's really nice. Wish you guys could have been out there with me. We'll be hanging out and chilling. Maybe do the community rip live on Wednesday, but it's not going to work this time. Maybe next
we
year.
can plan for next year, right? Next year we can make this happen.
Yeah.
We can get a hold of some people who know some people.
Exactly. I think it's I don't know about for you guys, but the community is great. And it's nice to share because it gives you perspective on where you started, where you're going. So if you're using the platform, use it in a way that empowers you. Don't use it in a way where you're out to vent and complain and all that other stuff. There's so much amazing content shared by so many people on there that the more you use it to your benefit, the further it will go in your trading career, or investing career. This is not a 2-year journey. This is a lifelong journey. So get along for the ride.
And just like we mentioned, I mean, anybody who knows us know that we started this podcast between the three of us because we met each other on Stocktwits, which is fantastic. I mean, we all trade differently, but we've shared charts that each other have liked or that has made us think in different ways. So there's just a trove of users out there who are pumping out content, trying to make everyone better. And there's no better place to do it than right here on Stocktwits.
Yes, sir. And so as we talk about this, I think when we talk about bottoms and stocks and stuff like that in this conversation, it's a really good time to identify which stocks are outperforming, right? So if you're looking at examples, T.E.M, Tempest AI, is outperforming. It's already taken out last week's high, right? So if you're looking for leaders in the markets that could potentially outperform other names, this one stands out. And so if you're doing your analysis and if you're doing your work every night or every weekend, whenever your scheduled time is, this is the stuff that I'd be looking for, right? Okay, the markets have been flat for 3 weeks now. What's not flat? Oh, look at this one. This one's actually outperforming, right? And so use pivots, use things that help you drive your education further and use it to your advantage, right? So I this is what I look for in terms of overall performance, right? Like if you're looking at most of the FANG names, they're all still underperforming by a long shot. And I think we've talked about this many times over the podcast over the last 6 to 8 months. If you're going to be long the mega caps, I think you're not going to be as happy if you cherry pick better names.
Yeah, I'd agree. Go with the Qs if you're gonna. I mean, I think Tesla is on its way to like 800 plus, just based on the monthly chart. So unless you're looking at Tesla, the rest of those names, I'm kind of with you. I think it's buy the Qs instead. It's a safer bet.
So Tesla's last 78% retrace was from 138 to 488. That was the move. That's a 253% move over 8 to 9 months. The one before that was 101 to 299, which is nearly a 200% move as well. So if the conversation here is the third time is the charm on the 78% retracement, then the move here is from 213, which, by the way, still hasn't filled the earnings gap of October. But with all the weakness in the world, it never filled the October earnings gap by 7%. I know it's meaningless.
Looking at that
sense, but come on now, like you're not going to fill the earnings gap by 70 cents. It's just ridiculous. Anyway, if the 78 retracement holds again here, and each time has been a slightly higher move, you can kind of bank on potentially a 300% move from here, which from 213 kind of gets you to that 640, 660 level from here in the next 8 to 9 months. And I know it's impossible to see. And if it breaks levels to the downside, then obviously it doesn't work. But that's the potential here for me.
Yeah.
But I don't trade in and out of shares of Tesla, right? I wait for the guaranteed pullbacks, which has happened every single year for the better part of 13 years, or what is it, 12 years now, to get long, right? To buy shares and to get long and to wait it out.
Nick.
Yes, sir.
One thing that you mentioned was if then. I think Tesla is a great case for if then strategy. So let's say if Tesla retakes, let's just call it 290, just for old shits and gigs. Let's say 290. What's the trade from there?
You're probably legging in, adding a little bit.
And let's just say if Tesla comes back into 220.
If you're adding on the break of that 290, so like you're looking at the range, let's just say the range is 290 to 220. If you're adding above 290, if price reverts back under that, you're killing your add. Because then if you would kind of look at that as a breakout failure. And worst case scenario is price reverts and undercuts the low.
Well, let's not say this. Let's not say that happens, Nick. Let's just say option 1 happens or option 2 happens.
Okay.
So option 1 is we go up to 290, right? And option 2 would be from here we go down to 220. Are both of those add points at this level and this level for you?
I'd be very. No, I as of right now, I would not be adding at 220. I would be, if price heads back to 220 from here, I'm in the camp that it's going to undercut the lows. And if the add then is when 220 gets reclaimed. Because like you've got to be thinking, I don't know how low they're going to smoke this thing. If you look at the chart that I tweeted on Stocktwits, it's more of a descending triangle look. So that's a bearish implied pattern. I wouldn't be adding at 220. I'd be a little hesitant, but who knows? Like if it really kind of all depends on how it sets up too. If we get a gap down and it gaps down to 220, and you see it ripping off the open, maybe it did find a low there. I think, I don't know. That's how I would how I'd be looking at
So
it.
you would look to add higher, but not lower. You would want to see it reclaim this level just in case it spiked the low, basically, right?
Yes, I would be adding lower, but like I said, I'd wait to see if it undercuts that 220.
You'd want to see if it held, and if it held, great. If it spiked lower, you'd want to see it come back above 220.
Yes.
Got it. And above 290, like that's a level for you to build the position right there, essentially.
Yes. I mean, you looking at it right now, I'm coming from the stance that you're already long in some capacity, whether it was on the igniting bar, whether it was yesterday through Monday's high, because that was kind of an easy trigger, with the exception of going into EPS. Like if you didn't have any cushion or you weren't willing to take that risk, that's just kind of how it is.
GP, do you agree with those assessments of 290 and 220?
If it goes back to the lows, it's going to get smoked, right? And that's like all those buyers over the last 3 weeks then become sellers. So those buy, and there's heavy buyers here, right? So you can see it with all the big green bars. So if we start to break those lows, you do not want to get long here, because those buyers are going to add a crap ton of pressure to the downside, because everyone knows that Tesla moves in 8 to 10% clips every single 20-minute block, right? That's hyperbole, I know, but it moves wild. So no one is going to sit there and take that shot underneath here, and then it gets smoked. And then you get your 175, 180 level that everyone's been wanting. It might just be a delayed reaction, because if you looked at all the flow going into yesterday's earnings, it couldn't have been more bearish. So this move today could just be getting the flow to go to zero and giving up and then failing. It happened on the last earnings, right? We had a big green earnings day, and then we got smoked. It went from 360 straight to 220. So I'm not saying there's a lot of stuff saying that it is the kind of the medium-term bottom for a lot of upside, but if the price action does not support that, it is going to go lower. And so you do not honestly want anywhere close to 220, because it's like the waterfall cascading effect, right?
I put some words on the screen. Does that capture both of your thoughts?
That's my thoughts. Yeah.
Would you consider like throwing on like a TSL short through the lows or anything? Or I really like shorts a lot of times, but I can't time them well. I consistently get the short call right. Like even we talked about Nvidia, right? I was shorting into end of year, but it took another 3 months for it to actually get to where I wanted to get to. So I tend to give up on these shorts a little bit too early. So I just don't even bother anymore. It's not worth my mental capital. If you can do it, great. If you can't, it's fine too, right? But so I wouldn't take any shorts. I would probably just buy puts, because it'll define your risk, and on a day like today where it's up, your IV will be pulled out as well. So you'll get an opportunity to buy some cheaper puts and hit a home run or whatever. But it's not. It could be like January earnings, where the initial reaction was to screw with the options market, and then the real reaction is afterwards, right? So that's what we'll be watching for tomorrow or into the close of the week. So far, it looks good. It looks different than January, but it's Tesla. You never know. So the question, go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, we have a few minutes left.
Yeah.
I gave you guys option 1 and option 2 here, but where would you stop buying? Like, Tesla is very volatile. It could come back into the 240s. Are you buying the 240s? Are you staying away? Like, where is your sort
245 of was your entry? 245, 246 was your entry this morning versus the 10-day.
Yeah, I think I posted that too, Nick, right? I said, hey, don't let them scare you out of your shares, right? And so
So you'd use the 9 or the 10-day basically as your line in the sand.
Yeah.
Or would you just call it 245 or
I would use the
10-day. Yeah.
because Tesla likes to extend on every move up or down. I'd use the 10 versus the 9, but they're all in the same boat, right? Ultimately,
Got it.
10 just gives you a little bit more room for wiggle. So the question I have as we get to the close of this chart of this session for you, both of you guys, and Ben, you first, since you're not sure it's a bottom, what in your mind gives you the confidence to say it is the bottom? Is it once we get to all-time highs? Is it once we clear this big igniting bar, as Nick talked about? What's your technical level, and then what's your mental level?
Yeah, I'll start with the mental level first, GP.
Yeah.
For me, it's really hard to be able to figure out where a bottom might be or where even a top might be, because we have an administration that is out there making statements, and that flips the market on its head in an instant. So it's really difficult. And you guys know me well enough. I am not a news trader. I have not been a news trader, but for the past 6 months, I've been a news trader when it made sense. So it's really tough to say. Do I expect the administration to button their lip? Absolutely not. Right? Like, they're going to be putting things out there incessantly, and that makes it really hard for me to find a technical level. Right? I think I like on the Qs of the chart I have up right now, I want to see us reclaim this igniting bar, right? So 466, 467 was the close of that bar, and it lines up with the bottom of where we came into, right, and retested and reclaimed before we had more waterfall. So at the very minimum, I want to see like 469, 470, and it hold within a couple of dollars right there on the Qs. Yes, if you look from down here, that's leaving quite a bit of money off the table, right? I did add some down here in my AVGO and my SOXL positions, but at the same time, I did that knowing that I can trade in and out of those. I don't know that I want to put another 30 or 40% of my cash that I've got on the sidelines to work until I see something above 470 stick and feel like it's going to hold. And if I look at what I was doing since November, right, that's still selling shares or buying shares at quite a bit of discount than I would have if I had been adding in November, December, and January. So I still feel really good about that. If we can carve out a bottom here and hold 470, I feel pretty good. Obviously, I will try to walk away if things get too squirrely, and that's part of the thing. You just never know with the way this administration likes to tweet and put announcements out there that just ultimately rock the market.
Cool. Thanks, Nick.
Interestingly, I'm definitely I'm right in alignment with you. The 4-7. So your first trigger is through the igniting bar high. That's relatively close to that 472. The 472 is the 50% retracement from the high to low. I suspect, or what I would like to see, I guess, is push through that and kind of climb up towards 500. And once we get up towards 500, I'd love to see us kind of pull back, retest that 470, and put in like an inverse, like a right shoulder right there, and then kind of bust through the 200-day ultimately. Like, that would set up like a much longer term, more sustainable bottom. How long it takes to kind of build that out, I guess time will tell, or if it even plays out that way. That being said, the 50%, I can't tell you how many times in 2022 price took out that 50% only to just rug us. Is what it is. On a more psychological or news driven point, at a certain point, I would imagine that the impact of their tweeting and all this shit is going to just kind of wear off and people are going to shrug it off. I think that's kind of your cue that, okay, the market no longer really gives a shit about what they're tweeting about. But I didn't think they came out today and said it could be 3 years before they ultimately reach a deal with China. And the market didn't really respond to that. We did kind of sell off, but it's not like it was a complete rollover. So what we have right now is basically the start of putting in a higher low, an ABCD leg up. But again, that igniting bar high versus, or 470, you could probably really use either one if you wanted. Probably just depends on how aggressive you really want to be. So that's kind of how I'm looking at it.
Awesome. Thanks, guys. I appreciate it.
We have one chart request real quick. We got 5 more minutes. Bihanu over on the YouTube channel wants to know about open. I think we've talked about open in the past. For me, I mean, it could be a bottom here, a double bottom if you go back here. But this is a do not touch for me. I don't like the chart at all. Guys,
that's a lot of selling.
Yeah,
that's a lot of selling.
Yeah, I don't like the chart at all. Look at the volume candles. Right, like it just doesn't look good. That does I always specify this. Anything can trade. I don't know your investment strategy or what you're looking to do. Anything can trade, but at the same time, I look at things from a more long-term time frame and investment perspective as opposed to trade. My trades are usually trading positions inside of my long-term positions, my portfolio. We've talked about this, us three in the past. All these charts have their own DNA or their own attitude in the way they trade. And it's important. I find that it's very important to know the ones that you're trading or the ones you invest in and kind of get their heartbeat or their rhythm down. Guys?
Yeah, personalities rule.
Some refer to that as like if you've heard somebody reference like the golden ratio, a stock or typically like you'll see stocks move symmetrically in terms of like, GP was mentioning like how Tesla was moving. I can't remember the exact percentages, but like even in terms of just points, like usually a stock will move, like let's say the golden ratio is 10. It'll move 10 points before it kind of corrects and slows down. It'll rip 10 points and then it'll move and kind of slow down. Just kind of throwing that out there, but I know we're reaching time limit here.
Guys, last word. GP, go.
Watch the VIX. We closed under 30 last week, and if we close under again, that's confirmation.
Nicholas.
Manage your risk. Obey your stops. Have a plan.
I love that. Have a plan. For me, I am less bearish. We talked about leaders. I am stalking Zscaler something hard, and I don't think I'm going to get a low past Mondays. So we'll see. But I'm stalking Zscaler very hard. That's probably going to be what I throw some money at very soon. Hey, we're at time. We'll back at you next week, next Wednesday, 2 p.m. right here on Stocktwits, on X, on YouTube. You got the Community Rip live at 2 p.m. every Wednesday with the 3 of us, and we can't wait to see you then.
And then come to the Cash Tag Awards afterwards.